Hey everyone, Mark from the Geek Church here. Last time I did my show, I did a pretty serious topic, so I'm going to go a little lighthearted this time. So I thought I'd do a subject on something fun that makes me really happy. So for today's episode, it's all about dogs. The thing is, I love dogs. I mean, if I'm walking down the street and I see a dog, like someone walking a dog, man, I have got to pet that dog. Now, honestly, I'm pretty shy socially, but if I see a dog there, I will always ask if I can pet the dog. Yes, I will shatter social barriers just so I can pet a dog. Now, if they say no, don't pet the dog, I'm cool with it. I don't pet the dog, okay? I'm cool with that. I'm like that. Even just today, I was at the park. I saw a dog. It reminded me of a dog I used to have. I asked to pet it, and I did pet it, and I was not disappointed. Very good dog. I gotta admit, it's not all dogs that I want to go up and pet. Hey. I mean, you know those small dogs that are kind of yippy, and if you get too close to them, they get kind of nervous, then they get kind of nippy. Yeah, I'm not really a fan of trying to pet those dogs. And don't get me wrong, I like Chihuahuas, but they tend to be one of those type of dogs that I don't approach because, honestly, I think they're nervous. Have you ever seen Chihuahuas? They're like all the time. I mean, that's poor things. I'm also not big on dogs that are like long hair. Those moppy kind of dogs. Like if that was I like the big dogs, but if there was like one of those moppy long hair dogs, I don't want to pet it. Same with a poodle. Just don't want to do that. The fur doesn't, I think I like the way the fur feels in the hand and the way poodle fur feels. It's all curly and stuff. I don't know. Yeah, that does make me a dog bigot, I will admit it, but surely you have those type of preferences. This is assuming that you even like dogs to begin with, and I'm making a lot of assumptions here. But for me, heck, I love the dogs. Yeah, my favorite types of the dogs are like the Great Danes, Labradors, and the Weimaraners, especially the Weimaraner. I might not be pronouncing that word right, but I love that fur that they have, that kind of blue silvery fur. It feels so good on the hand. And one time I saw a Great Dane that had this similar type of fur, and you better believe I definitely had to pet that dog for sure. I don't know what it is about dogs that just gives me joy, like instant joy right away, just seeing that dog. It's very rare that we have something that just gives us that instant satisfaction of just it being it. That's dogs. Now, surely I'm not alone on this. I remember I was thinking one time, like, what would I have if I could have anything I wanted? Yeah, like, you've never thought something like this. We all have, okay? We all have different answers for this. Here's my answer. And I was thinking that I would have a house with many types of dogs. Yeah, that's what I would have. You know, like one of every type of dog I'd like. Maybe more than that. It's kind of like a Noah's Ark of dogs, but just the big dogs, like the Great Danes, the Labradors, Weimaraners. I kind of like Rottweilers. Those are kind of cool. I'm trying to think of other type of dogs I like. Kind of Basset Hounds I kind of like. I'm trying to think of what other type of Huskies. Yeah, okay. I kind of like those. Those are good. Now, the practicality of owning all those dogs is just simply not smart. I mean, yeah, it's fun to say you have all these types of dogs just to say you have them, but surely they would not get along at all times. Also, it'd be a full-time job to clean up after all these doggies. You imagine the messes they would make? I mean, jeez. So, what is it that makes me love dogs so much? Maybe it's because it just seems like dogs are full of love. You will note my emphasis on the word seems. By that I mean, when we come home, the dog seems happy to see us. When we pet the dog, it wags its tail. It seems legitimately happy that we are around. basically, I think if we as humans showed as much joy for another human as a dog showed for us, we would never feel lonely again. In fact, it actually doesn't make sense that dogs love us so much, or seem to have this type of love. I'm going to bring this up. I'm curious about how dogs actually see the world. I would like to think dogs are pretty intelligent, and they show some degree of intelligence. But oftentimes we just use it so they can do tricks for us, or they can serve us. And there are times I think the dog can really just read the room. They just know the emotion around it. If you're feeling down, sometimes a dog will come up to you wagging its tail, basically being happy so you can be happy. But the thing is, how much does a dog actually understand? I mean, I'm sure my dog understands that I live in a house and there's walls to this house and there's a door to this house and windows, and needs to go outside every once in a while to do its business. But as far as how I go to my job and earn the money so I can pay for this house, the dog has no realization of that. Try and imagine it this way. Imagine if just aliens came down and just kind of took us, put us in our individual homes, and we had to live there. Now, not only would we not be able to understand the language, but their daily routine might be kind of foreign to us. I mean, as humans, we might be able to understand that, hey, they got jobs, every once in a while they have to leave the house and stuff like that. Assuming, of course, aliens even live this way, we don't know. I think I saw a movie once called Fantastic Planet where this was kind of the setup here, where humans are essentially little pets to aliens, kind of like we would treat mice or gerbils or something like that. It was weird. I can tell you, in the film Fantastic Planet, none of the humans really wanted to be around their giant aliens. They're giant alien slave owners. Yet here's the thing. We bring a dog to our home, and eventually the dog starts being loyal to us. It starts barking at the door when it thinks there's strangers. It's crazy that dogs just have this innate sense of defense, that when they know their family, they can get a little riled up if they think someone is trying to hurt their family. They might do their job too well sometimes. Now, why would an animal who is taken out of a situation that they might remember, of a family and stuff like that, adopt us as our family and be loyal to us and love us? I don't think it has anything to do with the food that we feed them. Some people say that dogs are simply loyal because we feed them, and then so, of course, they're gracious to us. Of course, they want to be nice to us because they want more food. I want you to think about this. Think about how humans can be nice to each other to get benefits or to get a higher salary or something like that. Ooh, not so much in common with the animals, do we? What a dog seems to have is definitely dependence, maybe even codependence, maybe some sort of harmful relational addiction to us. I'm going to say that it's love, though. Okay? I mean, like the Beatles said, I don't care too much for money. Money can't buy me love. If you have enough money, you can buy a dog. And if you give that dog love, it will give you love. You can alter that song by the Beatles there. And yet, dogs shouldn't love us. Think about how we treated slaves before the Civil War ended. We went to another country, we took them from their families, we brought them in our home, and made them serve us. Okay, granted, dogs are not used as beasts of the burden most of the time, but the concept is still there. I don't know if a dog can remember its puppy years. So when we just kind of oh, the dog has had puppies, and now, I mean, this is a common. A dog has puppies, and then you sell the puppies or you give the puppies away. Puppies get separated from mom. Now we could justify it in saying that dogs are technically animals. Not only do we kind of have a right over them, because we're human, top of the food chain, I guess we have a right to eat any meat we want. Thank God we don't eat dog meat, thank you. It can also be argued that, say, animals don't treat family members like we do. Okay, now before I get into this, I'm going to say that I'm not making any excuses for how we treat animals, or that we have the right to treat them that way because of some God-given right or anything like that. Personally, I think as humans, we don't treat animals fairly. And how do I know this? Well, I've heard that there's an ape that we have taught sign language, and we've done this with a few apes. So, why aren't we teaching every ape sign language, and then teaching them to get along with us? Why aren't we doing that? It's pretty clear we have a long way to go. Or is it clear? I mean, I'm certain that someone from 200 years ago who would say, like, you know, those slaves you keep around your house, you should treat them like human beings, would be very much ahead of their time. Maybe I could be ahead of our time and say, like, you know what? We need to treat animals like people. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. We need to treat animals like people. I try and treat my dog like a person because, honestly, my dog is a family member. All right? Maybe you feel that way too. For now, I think we are on the assumption that animals essentially just kind of get rid of their young when nature says it, and they just kick them out of the nest whenever the mother, or I don't know, do both parents work together on this? I don't even know. I did not even research this. This is just what I've always assumed is true. Now, we as humans don't abandon our kids until they're ready, right? Right? Well, let's just say that somebody who's 30 years old shouldn't be living with their parents, right? Which, by the way, I'm not. But I understand if you're in a position like that you have to be that way, and that does happen. But this isn't a discussion of culture, because there's all sorts of arbitrary social laws that we do that are done in some countries, but not others. I think we believe that animals still, even the kindest ones, have a savage nature. And by savage, I mean like they will eat their own young, they will kick them out of the nest when not ready, they will abandon them at whatever time they feel. So are we doing a good thing by taking animals into our home? Well, considering all the shelters that are full of animals that need a home, I would say yes. In fact, I think it's a good for the human species to care about other species. That just makes sense. Maybe this is why we've adopted this pet atmosphere that most of our homes have. And I would say my home is better with a dog. Of course, I was one of the types that grew up with a dog. Not everyone is, I get it. Our family got our first dog when I was about in 4th grade. I remember feeding the dog and taking care of him, but I'm pretty sure my parents probably had the burden of taking care of the dog completely. That is, like, I mean, if I didn't walk it, they would walk it. I mean, there was always somebody to fall back on. If I didn't feed it, then they would feed it. You see? Honestly, having a pet is a good way to learn responsibility. You have an animal that is reliant on you. Therefore, you have to take care of it. Just makes sense. Now, when we first got my dog, this is in 81 or so, and there was a lot of chaos going on. We had just moved. We were in a condo waiting for our house to be built. And yeah, that dog pretty much peed on every square foot of that floor that we had in our living room. Not only that, it would escape. It would try and find a way to get out, and then you spend a merry time trying to catch it. And then, of course, it chews up pretty much everything. All right, I'm not going to go into any more details about the negatives, because if you have a dog, you know this already. So as I've mentioned before, I'm on the autism spectrum. Didn't find this out until I was 50 years old. So chaos as a child was very terrifying to me. Like if something goes wrong or not according to my little routine, it's a major cross current. Like if I'm sitting down and relaxing, it is a major hardship for me just to get up and do something that isn't really planned. Now, this doesn't mean that I can't change my routine every once in a while. In fact, that kept me healthy. Just finding out ways to change my routine so I could get used to this idea that change needs to happen. When you have somebody who has my mental facilities and has a dog, that dog can really upset your apple cart sometimes. The thing is, when a puppy becomes a dog, eventually it develops a routine too. You know, you let it out every in the morning to go to the bathroom. It stops chewing things. It takes regular rests. It's not so hyper all the time. It gets mature. Also, the more you own a dog, the more it will want to stay in the house. I've been in situations where I've let out my dog and there's back doors been open or constant ways the dog could escape and go and roam and explore, but the dog doesn't do that. And if it does, it finds its way back home. So eventually, when we first get a dog, it really dominates us and might be a source of stress for our life, clamoring for attention. But gradually, it doesn't become the center of attention after all. But it also doesn't become marginalized. Now, when I first got married, my wife, she grew up with dogs. She had Great Danes, I believe, and she wanted to get a dog. This kind of scared me at the time, and as I recall, I didn't quite have a job, but I said, as soon as I get a job, we can get a dog. Well, of course, I got a job, and we got ourselves a puppy. It was a chocolate lab from the pound, who was actually pretty large. I think they were actually 6-9 months or something like that. I don't recall a lot of growth from this dog from when we got the dog to its days. And it was the same thing. The dog was just making a lot of chaos, had a lot of energy, would chew up things, and yeah, it was a little hard at first. And it's different when you're adults because you are responsible for the dog. You can't just say, "Hey, mom, dad, you can take care of the dog, right?" No, you're the mom, you're the dad of this dog. You need to take care of it. There was one time when the dog woke us up, and I think I just ignored it, and as it turns out, it had to go to the bathroom, and it did so all over the carpet, and it was that liquid number 2, the worst, smelliest, and just hardest to clean up. Of course, you know, we did clean it up, but, and part of that I was just thinking like, oh, I'm so tired, we need to get rid of this dog. Now, we stuck with it, but here's the thing. I know a lot of families that don't stick with it. That is, they'll get a dog and then they'll just kind of return it. But to me, I can't really understand that one, and I almost want to shame families that do that. I mean, to me, this is like having a baby and then getting rid of it once the baby cries and you have to change its diaper. This stuff happens. You should have known that this is what it comes with. I mean, I understand that there are couples that separate for very dumb reasons, and there are people that leave their families behind for equally dumb reasons. And I don't want to, actually the fact that I'm calling it dumb, it means that I'm getting judgmental over it. And perhaps maybe I do want to judge this because to me, if you've brought a dog to your family, that dog should stay there. Just getting rid of that dog once it's become inconvenient to you in a way that is not harmful to you or others just feels very low to me. You know, but if you do have to get rid of your dog, and it's understandable that you do, make sure it's to a good home, and I know that can be hard to find. So yeah, we kept our dog, and eventually we had kids of our own. And then we had another kid, and then another. And it's kind of cool watching a kid grow up with a dog in the house. The thing is, you start to realize how quickly time passes as your kids start to grow up, and you don't really remember much about your dog growing up during that time. Yeah, I love watching, I see these videos all the time on Instagram and TikTok about how babies are raised with this puppy, and the baby and puppy are like the best friends, and they show time lapse of them growing up together and them snuggling together. It melts my heart. It's just the most awesomest thing in the world. I almost wish I could have planned that out with my kids and my dog. I mean, it's enough to bring a tear to my eye. Speaking of things that'll bring tears to your eye, this next part isn't easy. But our first dog, that is the one that my wife and I adopted, it was 14 years old and it was on its last legs, like it could barely walk. And there came a time where I had to take it to the vet and put it to sleep. And that was a very, very, very hard day. Anyway, yeah, I remember having to tell my older two kids that what I was going to have to do. My daughter took it really hard, and I remember having to ask my other kid to leave the room while I consoled her and hugged her. And yeah, it was a tough day. As for my youngest kid, he was about 5 or so, and I wasn't even certain how much of he was aware of the situation. I don't even recall even telling him that we were going to do that to the dog, and I think one day he just asked Mom where the dog was. I definitely did not handle that situation quite well, but it's difficult. Anyway, after the dog was gone, I came home from the vet. I was so sad. And then my youngest came in the room, and I started hugging him, and I realized that our house had a lot of love to spare. And but I knew that I wanted another dog, that was for sure. So yeah, I knew that we were going to get another dog, and I also knew that I was going to find it, probably without even looking. And literally, I did not look. And then one day, we discovered our neighbor, their dogs had a litter of 5 puppies, and my daughter was playing with one of them one time. And at first we thought like, oh, maybe we could adopt one of these puppies. But then the owner said, no, I want to keep this particular puppy. And that was the one that my daughter loved, and we called Yuki. And so we thought, okay, I guess we're not going to adopt Yuki. And then one time as I came home, I saw my neighbor sitting there with Yuki, and he just asked, is it okay if you bring Yuki home with you? And I said, yeah, let me just talk to my wife about it, and we'll see about getting Yuki. And then the next day, before I even came home from work, Yuki was at our home, and I remember asking my wife, has Yuki come to visit, or has Yuki come to stay? And I was just so happy, but at the same time I was crying because I was just so glad. It just felt like something was back that was missing before, and it's just felt so good. Now, of course, we went all through the chaos of having a dog, specifically a puppy, especially with Yuki, who I think was only like maybe 3 weeks old when we got her. So yeah, she was pretty young. Now she's of course a very well-behaved dog at 11 years. And in all honesty, I always miss her whenever I'm away. So that's my dog story, and hey, maybe you've got something similar. If you want to leave a comment on here and to talk about your dog, please do that, because dogs are very special to us, and yeah, they just really are. Okay, that concludes my talk about dogs, and you know what? I had a really hard time writing this, honestly. You know, I couldn't figure out why. Normally I have a script that I try and type out, and I was typing out and I just kept getting writer's block. That usually doesn't happen to me. Maybe the issue was I was just trying to do something deliberately cheery and trying to do something overwhelmingly positive. And I find that when somebody tries to do that, tries to be deliberately cheery and tries to be so deliberately positive, they end up becoming very fakey in how they come off. I mean, I tried to be real last week because I was doing truth-telling, but I was talking about bullying, a very negative issue. But at the same time, it happened to me, and I just felt that it had to be told. For a while, I was just not feeling this topic, even though it's about my favorite thing, dogs. Hey, all right, dogs make our lives better. I'm just gonna say that right there. When you come home, who's most happy to see you? Your dog. This leads to my first point. Dogs always give love. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, maybe the dog loves you because you feed it. And I would say, did you love your parents? Did they feed you? Yes. So I'm going to say, maybe that dog is just as good as loving as you are. And one thing I'd like to say is dogs are comforting. You can always count on a dog to be there. It's basically like oftentimes you're just at home and the dog follows you around. You can go to one place, part of the room, there's the dog. You can just be sitting watching TV, dog is laying there just doing that. Why? Because it just wants to be there for some reason. It wants your company, and that's a good thing. The third thing is dogs always try their best. You will always see a dog put its 100% in pretty much everything. Sometimes this works to its disadvantage. For example, you're at home, you're knocking the door, guess who barks and won't quit barking? Your dog. That happens. And there are times, like I said, the dog will be sitting on the floor. You get up to go to the bathroom, you get a snack, that dog is up with you. Why is that dog up there? Just stay, if it was me, stay asleep. This would be like if my wife got up at night and I just went, oh, I think I'm just going to no, just stay in the bed. But the dog follows you as if, and you're not even going in the direction toward food. The dog just wants to be there for you. There's not a lot of animals that do this. And I'm not really certain why we as human beings have adopted this animal who I don't even know how they even perceive us as humans. It'd be like if aliens came from another planet and put us in their house. We would not know what to think about what they were doing. The dogs do this, and they give love there. And that's awesome. So in short, get a dog, get yourself some love, get some company. Get a companion that gives its all. That's what you can do. I think I found kind of what my show is about. It is about me and my own personal experiences, and I found when I just talked about my own personal experiences with dogs, I was able to just come up with this rather easily. This next 4 weeks, I'm planning on doing a 4-part series. I might change my plans on this, but for now, I don't want to get into what the 4 parts are, but I will say that they are things that are somewhat negative, and I really hate to have to say that. I am being truthful, and I hate the fact that when I'm telling the truth, it does come across as being kind of negative, because a lot of crap has happened to me. I'm going to be very honest on that. And yeah, hang on a second. Basically, in my next 4 weeks, I'm going to be talking about 4 specific instances in my life that happened to me that are a result of me being on the autism spectrum and not knowing it. But here's the thing. Some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is my fault. I will definitely own up to that. But some of this was probably somebody's perception of me being and coming across in a certain way. And this has led to some things like that. In fact, my first 3 on this are probably going to be, hey, a lot of this stuff is my fault, but I can see why somebody would have responded this way. The 4th one is going to be probably my hardest to tell, and when I tell it, it's going to stir up a lot of stuff locally, and I don't know. It's one of those things that when I'm out with this, I have to tell the truth, and the story I'll have to tell in that 4th one is going to be tough. And I'm going to manage through those as they come. So, okay, top 5 things that dogs do that humans love. I showed the dog doing this, but it's really difficult to get a dog to do something that you want them to do. Number 1 is the pant smile. Yeah, dogs can't really sweat, right? So they do it all through their mouth. And I'm pretty amazed at how much they can do through their mouth as far as the drool goes. It's pretty amazing they have their tongues out like this, and it kind of looks like that they're actually smiling, which I know that dogs don't really express emotions that way. But honestly, I'm surprised at how large the tongue can get there. Sometimes I wonder how in the world you get that tongue in your mouth. Okay, number 2, the shrill yawn. Okay, for some reason dogs don't yawn like us. They usually do something like this. It's crazy. I guess we humans yawn like we're crying, and dogs yawn like they cry. That little whine noise. Sometimes that whine noise can be kind of cute, but it can get pretty annoying and even pathetically sad after a while. Number 3, zoomies. Yeah, this might be kind of a negative thing for a dog because, I mean, geez, I've seen when dogs get wound up and they spend a lot of time indoors and they just want to run. They just tend to run in this specific place. And they kind of do the stop thing and then you just kind of, they just go around in circles and stuff like that. It's pretty fun when you do it when you're outside. It's really fun. And even inside it can be kind of fun too. But yeah, it just shows how much energy the dog has. Number 4, that welcome dance. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You come to the door, that dog is marching up to the door to see you. Its tail is wagging and it's trotting toward you. It just feels like they are just so happy that you're here. It's almost as if they could say, "Oh, I'm so glad you're home." And number 5, amazing sleep. There's a reason for the expression "let sleeping dogs lie," because yeah, when dogs lay down and asleep, I swear they look so comfortable, and sometimes I can't resist petting them. But at the same time, I really want them to be relaxed in that thing and in dreamland. It's just so comforting to see. And now the downside of dogs: drooling, going to the bathroom in places, barking incessantly, a lot of fur, a lot of shedding, possible chance of getting accidentally bit, possible chance of growling, possible chance of, you know what, I'll just let those play off. For me, the positive aspects of owning a dog just far outweigh those negative aspects. And if you're willing to get through the negative aspects that happen when the dog is a puppy or when it's just getting adopted in your home, you're going to have yourself a huge amount of love. It is a long-term love investment, and dogs are worth it. For now, this is Mark Rollins from the Geek Church, and I'm signing off.